Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session.
Hey there guys, welcome back to an updated Utsunes guide from yours truly, Paul Reisman, teaching assistant here at Ruler School TCG. We have received a lot of different support across all of Trinity Cluster for a variety of rulers. If you haven't checked out our Lucy guide yet, definitely do that. We've updated that guide as well with some of the new support that we received for Lucy, the Synthetic Alchemist. But today we're going to be talking about our favorite green witch who controls time, Utsunes, because she's received some support, not just in terms of primary, but also secondary support, and that's changed the game plan for Utsunes as a ruler as a whole. So if you are a fan of this very underutilized ruler, let's jump right in and talk about them. So this is the new support that we've received for Lucy. Two new Forgotten spells in the form of Remnanthropos Utsunes the Forgotten and Forgotten Forest of Fossils, which might sound familiar because that is an alternative name for Aradia, the Heaven of Aeon. This is the true name for the Forgotten Forest of Fossils, the main reference to that card, which is really, really great. And you can kind of see there, we have Titanophil just sort of just his bones just everywhere, just kind of around, right? I imagine this is what happens when Utsunes dumps all of her different Remnatherions in her particular little world called Aradia. So let's jump right into what the support allows us to do now that we've received it, and we'll take a look at some of the secondary support we've received across the cluster as well. So let's talk about Forgotten Forest of Fossils. This is the true edition, the True Forest edition for Utsunes. This gives your Utsunes J-Ruler all of the abilities of your Time Beasts expelled from the game. If you also manage to get a Forgotten Forest of Fossils removed from the game in terms of it being expelled, she'll also gain all of the abilities of this card as well, which introduces some really interesting implications going forward, and I'll tell you why as we get further in the video. This searches out any of your Time Beasts, which again, if you don't remember what Time Beasts are, that's just my name for any of your resonators that have time in their specified cost for their will cost, or any card with Remnant in the game can just be searched out with this particular card. You can tap or pay blue and time to do this, so you can search multiple times if you need to. Most of the time, as of the recording of this video, I have mostly found success just searching out one Remnant card at a time with the tap ability during upkeep, which is still incredibly good. This searches any of your one of Remnant text that you would like to play, including things like Voice from the Void, which were, kind of something we were considering before, but now they're a little bit more viable. This doesn't draw you an additional card when you have targets in the graveyard at the top of the turn, so it really does enable you to get rid of all of your Time Beasts in graveyard, like your Leo Aatrox, your Disrus Lupus, just to get them expelled from the game to make Utsune's judgment costs a lot cheaper, but then also it gives her all of those abilities once they're expelled from the game, so it really does enable your judgment of your Utsune's ruler. This card is everything the deck really wanted. Of course, it's got Mythic, so we have to be careful of using the original Aradia with this card, but what that ultimately will do for us as well is with our next card, allow us to cycle and do some really interesting things with those particular additions. Let's take a look at Remnanthropos Utsunes the Forgotten. Another Forgotten card, which means that, like with the Forest of Fossils, you are still able to search this card out with Titanophil, which is really helpful for us in order to maintain our combos and do those sorts of things and enable those combos. You can sack a Remnatherion to cast this card for free, which is really helpful. Let's just also mention that it is a witch, so a lot of people have been putting this in the sideboard to work with our Witch of the Fallen Kingdom, which is reprinted in Thoth of the Trinity, allowing us to have Witch of the Fallen Kingdom throughout the entirety of the Paradox format, which is a little bit of an innovation that we received as a part of these recent last few months as well. We saw the resurgence of New Frontiers Plus, which is what the company is calling Paradox. So having this card available in the sideboard for your Witch Box plays is really, really good. When she's in the field, non-Aradia Resonators lose and cannot gain non-enter keyword abilities, which is honestly pretty helpful for getting around things like Barrier, Eternal, and some other things. This also enables cards like Light Lightning to be able to be cast, and she can just destroy those Resonators that have lost those keyword abilities. So there's a really nice interaction there as well. She mills in and cheats in any copy of the Forest of Fossils upon entry. So she's going to mill the top 3 and then put a card titled Forgotten Forest of Fossils from hand or grave into the field. So that's going to be incredibly helpful for getting out our big 3-cost Forgotten Forest. And I mean, that's incredibly good as well. This card can be cast from the graveyard and RFG if you have a time stone as well, meaning that this card's going to be really hard to get rid of in terms of making it so that it cannot be cast. It can reestablish itself relatively easily, either by paying 3 or sacking a Remnitherion and expelling it, because those cards, when they leave the field, get expelled from the game instead. And so this Resonator is very, very interesting, very powerful. And what I will say is, in my experience, this card can die relatively easily because of that 400 defense. But she has some interesting applications, especially when you do cast her from the graveyard without using her Remnants ability, using her replacement effect instead. You still draw a card off the Utsunes ruler because she sees that a card was cast from the graveyard that has Remnant on it. So that's a really interesting interaction that this card has with its namesake ruler. Let's look now into some of the other forgotten spells. This is dipping into secondary support a little bit because we didn't have a lot of forgotten spells to speak of at the start of the game. We had Forgotten Forest of Fossils, which was just Aradia, and then the 3 different forgotten spells that made up the body of Titanophil. But now we have, in addition to Utsunes and the other Forgotten Forest of Fossils, we have for every forgotten creature, and we have the Forgotten Amphitheater of Mool. So this is 2 more cards that can be searched out. This is an expel cancel with a repeatable +1/+1 counter generation, and if you end up getting 4 counters on one of your bodies with this card, you get to draw an additional card. Very, very powerful in the sense that it just gives you additional advantage and turns your weenies into big threats, and that's really, really great. The Forgotten Amphitheater of Mool is another card. It's multimodal. It was initially released with all of Ruchiel's support, but it does technically have Forgotten in its name, so you can dump Titanophil to find this card. This is a multimodal spell that draws cards, expels graveyards and RFGs. It can yoink small Resonators of total cost 1 and keep them permanently, and it cancels automatic and activate abilities, which can add a certain level of utility to what the deck is trying to do. All of that being said, these are 2 costs, so they will dodge Mirror, which is really helpful to note, but these cards are also a little expensive, and they don't really work very well against Order decks, with the exception of maybe the canceling of the auto and activate abilities. That's really helpful in certain matchups, but in general, these cards can sometimes just kind of whiff depending on the matchup, so these are really format dependent. So now what do we do with these new cards? Well, it creates an entire new axis of play for Utsunes. Essentially what you're doing is you're giving up all of your stone diversity in terms of your Magic Stone types in order to play Magic Stone of Time, enabling Remnithropos Utsunes to come out relatively easily and repeatably. That being said, you may not want that all of the time, but in this version of the deck, you do want blue a lot more often, even though you're not going to be able to use things like Zacky's New Plan or any of the pitch spells. You will get access to one of the best secondary support colors for wind control decks in the game. You want to be able to play Utsunes so that way you can just maximize your ability to have board control over your opponent. If you have Forgotten Forest of Fossils on the field, what that allows you to do is it makes Sympathy of Fire and Wind very easy to access, as well as cards like Suya, allowing your board control to extend and making it really, really difficult for your opponent to push through. However, this deck struggles against decks that are unaffected by keyword wiping for their game plan, and that's probably the main challenge of this deck. That being said, this access isn't completely without merit. There's a lot of really interesting things you can do with the deck in this particular playstyle, especially because of Forgotten Forest of Fossils being such a powerful addition to have on the field. It allows you to turn your deck into kind of like a remnant toolbox, which is really helpful. And the real question is going to be whether or not Utsunes puts in a lot of work against your opponent and what they are doing on their side of the field. So that's a real big thing. It also cuts you off from certain kinds of support, like Replicant Shiva, and some other generic resonators that are going to be really, really helpful going forward, some of which are here. The new secondary support in the form of Gone is really, really good. Not only does Gone ramp you a stone, it also fixes your next stone call, meaning that you are able to achieve stone diversity for his larger effect to become a 20/20 with Pierce and Eternal relatively easily. Of course, this card does not play nice with the new Utsunes Resonator, so just keep that in mind. The same thing going for Robometa Peak of Technology. As this card comes into the field, you want to be able to give it symbol skills to make it larger, but some of the things, the only things you're really going to be getting from this particular card are its stat additions, not any of its symbol skills if you have Utsunes on the field. So sometimes these cards can clash with the new Resonator. We did get a new cancel spell in the form of Goliath's Command Point, which is really helpful to get rid of total cost 2 spells and putting them outside the game face down, which is really helpful to prevent certain things from being cast or being referenced. So those cards essentially become hidden in that zone. This is a really good card for the Paradox version of this deck alongside things like Sword of Progression. We also have in the secondary support, once again, Chubby Five-Tailed Fox is here. In a Darkness version of the deck that utilizes Darkness Magic Stones, this card is really helpful in order to see more cards, but also dumping all of your Remnitherions into the graveyard to either be removed by Forgotten Forest of Fossils and drawing you additional cards, or just setting up plays with the original Aradia Forgotten Forest of Fossils, so those cards can gain Remnant and be played into the field, drawing you additional cards. We also have been getting just little tiny bits of Remnant support throughout this cluster. One card to mention is a favorite here at Ruler School TCG, One Hit KO Anesthesia. This card is really helpful for getting rid of cards that have Barrier or Eternal, but that are kind of small. Things like Robometa. If you see your opponent playing Robometa, this is a really good way of just saying, well, you don't have access to this anymore. If they try and play a second one for an additional will, you get to take care of that one as well and draw yourself an additional card because of Utsune's ability. One thing to recognize is we're starting to get spoilers for the Descent into the Raven's Catacombs, which is the next first set of the Evil Cluster. This is really interesting. As soon as I saw this card, I knew it was Utsune support because not only is it a pitch spell that is essentially a green version of Mirror, Curse Mirror of the Snake, but it also has Remnant, meaning that you can cast it from grave and draw a card off Utsune's, making this card incredibly helpful. It also stops activate abilities just like Mirror, so that gives us another access of play in order to disrupt some of the things the opponent is doing. This card is definitely going to be a mainstay in Utsune's decks going forward because you don't even necessarily need blue to cast it. If you're pitching, this card is really helpful for just one green, stopping your opponent from doing certain things, which is really great. Some new secondary support coming out. I've been using a lot of Ultra Magic Stone Golem in this particular list because we're flowing into cards that support a Diversity Stone list like Gone, as well as a Resin Drop of the Fallen Tree. This is really good to sort of insulate Utsunes a little bit by giving her life gain. It's a wind magic stone, which is really helpful for achieving that diversity stone list, but also produces green natively, so that's really helpful as well. That Lunar Eclipse ability can really start to add up over time. Every end of the turn, getting an additional even 800 life can definitely do some work in preventing you from losing the game. If you were playing in Paradox, one of the ways of having Ultra Magic Stone Golem but at home is to play the new Grendel support that we saw revealed as a part of the new starter decks for the Evil Cluster. You can pay 1 less to play this card for each different name of magic stones you control, meaning that you can play Diversity Stones and still get away with playing something like a bug version of this deck. Playing Time Stone, but also playing things like Killing Stone or Resin Drop to essentially provide yourself a 9/8 with Flying, Bane, and Vileborn 4. So he's definitely going to be kind of a nasty card to get on the field against your opponent. You can choose up to 2 resonators your opponent controls with defense less than the attack of this card and destroy those resonators. So this card is definitely Ultra Magic Stone Golem, but for Paradox, and that seems pretty good to me. Other than that, guys, do you have any questions for us? Let us know down in the comment section down below. I think Utsunes, unlike Lucy, is going to see some additional secondary support as we go into the Evil Cluster. It seems like Nero's support is going to be of interest to her, as well as Valgot's support from the Evil Cluster. Any additional Remnant cards that we get going into the future are going to be helpful. And sometimes, I imagine sometime in the future, we're going to be seeing a very board control heavy meta. It's even possible that this new Utsunes Resonator is just something that the company designed for Paradox to make Utsunes really powerful in that particular format. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, this has been Paul saying class is dismissed.